Welcome to Rome. This is The Bittersweet Life with Katy Sewell and Tiffany Parks. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Tiffany in Rome, Katy also in Rome, because we're here on our 2025 Roman Adventure.
Yay!
Feel free to cheer. And we are not alone. We are here with all of our guests from the tour this year, which is amazing, almost all of them. And today we are also celebrating what we could term as a milestone. This is also our 600th episode.
Yeah, I can hardly believe it.
Yeah, how does that feel?
Feels like I'm old, right? It feels 600 is a big number.
Yeah, it is. And it means that you've done this for over 10 years. Weekly production. And so we've decided to discuss the topic of milestones today. And hold this for 1 second. I won't make you hold it for long because I know you don't know what you're doing, even after 10 years. Just kidding. Joking, of course. For those of you who listen to the show a lot, know that sometimes when we talk about something that's like milestones, I like to look up what the actual definition of a milestone is to see if the way that we think about it is what it actually means. So the number one definition of milestone is a physical definition, as you might imagine. A stone marker set up on a roadside to indicate the distance in miles from a given point. So pretty boring, but that's where it comes from, of course. And you were telling me a very interesting thing at lunch.
Yeah, it comes from Rome, the idea of the milestone. You know, the expression.
Who knew, by the way?
Yeah, the expression all roads lead to Rome, of course, was because they literally did. All the roads in this part of the world that were being built at a certain point in history were being built by the Romans. They were the only ones doing it. And they all led from Rome out into their conquered provinces. And so literally all Romes, in this part of the world anyway, did lead to Rome. And the point that they led to technically was a spot in the Roman Forum, which I don't know, you guys who went to the Forum, I don't know, maybe you had this pointed out to you by Barbara, but there is a huge round marker in the Roman Forum, and it's called the navel of the world, umbilicum mondum. And that is where all of the milestones were measured from. And so as you're getting along the road towards Rome or going away, you'd have the milestone and it would be counted from that spot.
See? I mean, who knew? This woman is a fount of information. So the runner-up definition, of course, is more what we think of it, which is an important event or turning point. And runner-up to that, because there's always so many different definitions, is an event or accomplishment marking a significant advance in an endeavor or a notable achievement. Is that what you guys would think a milestone actually means?
Yeah. For me, it's the third one.
People are nodding. Do you agree?
Yes. I think more than a turning point, for me, it feels like more an accomplishment of a certain level or a certain number of things or a certain time of doing something.
Well, under the turning point definition, one of the examples they gave us, it's almost like that would refer more to like the development in a child, a turning point where they hit a milestone is sort of what they were thinking. No.
Like when they start crawling or when they start sitting up.
Right. Okay. So then, Katy being Katy, I was like, well, is there a better word for doing a 600th episode than a milestone? So then I was looking at the thesaurus, and then I was going too far down the road, so I backed up again. But I did have that question. Are dates, like important dates or numeric achievements, like making your 600th episode, would that actually be considered a milestone? Or would that be considered more of an occasion or a landmark? Now, I don't know if you have any opinions on that, but...
I do. I think it is a milestone. I think if you think about the original definition, if you're counting the miles along the road, you know, let's say 100 episodes is a mile. You know, it is, you have reached the next milestone. So I remember when we did 100 episodes, and I'm pretty sure we called that episode Milestone.
No, that was the 200th episode, I think.
200th, all right.
Well, actually, maybe you're right.
It was one of the two. You guys can look it up later. But, you know, that was a milestone. Then 200 episodes was a milestone. And then 300. And then we kind of stopped marking it because it kind of felt like, well, you know, we've marked this milestone so many times. But since it happened that our 600th episode just happened to be taped here with all of you guys, we thought, well, we got to mark this again. And Katy felt that 600 it feels like a bigger number than even 800, which I'm not sure I understand.
Well, I didn't say 800, but something about 6. I did not say 800.
It feels bigger than the number 800.
All right, I could see that I say that does say something. But I mean, when it comes to a milestone, it could easily be like we decided not to mark it till 650.
Okay.
Which would be an even bigger milestone.
Mm-hmm. All right.
600 more important.
I don't know.
I mean, is it because we like round numbers?
I think we do like round numbers. Most people do like round numbers. 500 would have been probably, the more classic number to mark. But which we did not mark, I don't think.
Okay. I mean, you're nodding. Jana, do you want to add anything to this? Do you have thoughts? You don't have to.
Oh, I was just agreeing that usually it's a numerical round number that I feel is a milestone. So
yeah, like 10 years of marriage versus 15.
Yes.
Versus 25 versus. And I go on and on. Does anybody else want to comment on that before we move on? If not, that's fine.
Trailing zeros,
Hang on.
I think we denote those numbers with just all zeros at the end, as a big milestone in general. Mm-hmm. But of course, 1,000 is going to be super awesome.
Yeah.
If we make it.
If we make it that far.
If we make it. Because that's going to be, how many more years would that be? Another 5 or 6
years. Yeah.
Here, we'll let you come on in. All right. So I do want to get into those of you who want to share what you would consider a milestone in your life. And I do believe that milestones, even though when you mark like an anniversary or the 600th episode, is a different thing than like necessarily life milestones. I think they're the things. I was actually asking Tiffany over lunch, when you do milestones like my 600th episode or I don't know, my 50th wedding anniversary, is that a milestone that other people actually find more impressive than you do? I mean, I think when you're married 50 years, that's an impressive accomplishment. But 600 episodes for me, I mean, it feels like a lot. Like I never thought I'd make 600 episodes with this particular person. But like I was telling her at lunch, it's not like I've never made 600 episodes of a show in my life before. Like I worked on a different show. I worked for NPR for 10 years, and I made well over 600 episodes of that show. So for me, it's not out of the ordinary that this is something that I could do,
And if I can push back on that, you had a whole team of people working with you and supporting you at NPR, whereas here it's, I mean, I'm here, but I don't help that much, really. I just kind of provide some
the color.
Exactly, the local color. No, but I mean, as far as the technical aspects of it, the editing particularly, Katy does all of that, and so you have. I think it's more of an accomplishment to produce 600 episodes of your own show than it is to produce 600 episodes of a show with an entire production team behind you.
Well, I mean, I think you're overestimating how much of a production team we had. We were always kind of scrappy.
All right.
Jana worked at the same radio station as me, and granted, you're in a totally different department, so I don't know how much you know, and the station is way bigger now than it ever was. But how was it back then, Jana? Do you remember?
I look back and I cannot believe that you and Steve, and especially you actually, because you put everything together, put together 2 hours a day. Oh, 4 days a week?
5.
You did the Fridays too? So 5 days a week. That's just amazing. Now the teams look completely different. You've got about 7 people doing what the 2 of you are doing. So,
see? I'm not saying
you had I thought you had like 5 or 6 people working for you.
I had a couple unpaid interns and an assistant producer. But I do think as far as Tiffany and I are concerned, given that we thought we might make, 35 episodes total when we started?
I didn't have an expectation for it. I don't know. Maybe you did. I just thought, this is fun. Let's just do this. And yeah, she was living in Rome for a year. So the idea was, we'll do this while you're in Rome and then it'll be over.
Yep. And here we are. All right. So let's tell some stories. Let's tell some milestone stories. Does anybody have a story, or Tiffany, you can share one too, a story like of something you would consider a milestone in your life? Good, bad, anything that you feel like would be a fun story to tell. Okay, coming over to Colleen.
It's kind of not a real milestone, but it's kind of silly. I was laughing. I think I'm tired of doing stairs. Okay. Walking up to my room just now, it's like, oh, maybe I'm done.
And this is a milestone because
I'm a very active person. Yes.
Yeah, you took one look at the staircase of Santa Maria Naracelli in Rome, and you were like, let's run up there.
Which is how many stairs would you guess?
I think it's about 150.
Yeah, I did repeats on the river today on the stairs, so I think I'm a little done.
Yeah. There's one thing you don't need is more exercise here, probably, given how much we're walking you around every day.
I think that Pam has
Okay.
Mine seems a little heavier and darker after that.
I
But
like heavy and dark. That's part of my specialty.
but I suppose what I realized was a milestone much after the fact was I went through a long illness with my mom, and being an only child, my mom had dementia, and she passed in 2020, and I had a lot of processing to do with that, and I needed to come to a space with it where it was not necessarily a positive thing, but I needed something to make it less completely negative for me. And I realized that having gone through that with her, that what it gave me was the gift of that we only have one life, the realization that you need to grab it. And so it's kind of like her final gift to me was take this and grab it, because so hence all of our travels now. That's why I'm here with you guys.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you think you realized that message in the time, or did it take time for you to realize that?
A lot of time for me to realize it. So I did not realize it was a milestone. I mean, I knew it was a milestone, but I guess this is a milestone. The message of the milestone did not reach me for a while. So now I am grateful for it as a milestone, whereas I was not really grateful for any part of it at the time. So, but that is a way that I can have her memory and be grateful for that part of it.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Very, very good. Did you want to add something, Mike, as the spouse, as you're nodding? You don't have to.
We went through so many different layers with it. The part of it too is like it was really hard on Pam's health, that was a big thing, that, and then she was able to retire a few years ago, so kind of adding those things together, she's in a way, way, way better place health-wise. Yeah, and so, that was kind of the beginning of all that, the end of a certain era and beginning of hopefully lots of good years of travel and experience together and with friends,
Yeah, that's great. That is a milestone. I mean, even you mentioning retirement, that's a huge milestone, right? Where you have to redefine yourself to a certain degree. I mean, when I left working at the radio station to come here to move to Rome, in some ways that felt like a retirement, because those of you who have heard the show a lot, but I came here and everyone's like, wow, what an adventure. You're going to just walk around Rome for a year. And for the first month, I was crying every day because I'm like, who am I? I'm like, why did I displace myself from the career I worked so hard for? And sometimes like that is, I've heard from other friends who have retired, even Steve, who you were just mentioning as the former host of my show, it's not like he regrets the fact that he retired, but he had I don't know, a decade of being like, who am I now? This was such a defining part of who I was. And of course, with being on the radio comes a certain level of fame. So he also had to let go of like people knowing who he was over time, which was a different thing to adapt to. But it is interesting. And now that he's adjusted, and maybe those of you who have retired for a while have adjusted, now he's like, oh, I love like this new chapter, but it takes some time.
You can imagine that. Yeah. I was thinking about a milestone that I had in my life, and that was becoming an Italian citizen.
Oh, yeah.
So when I moved to Rome in 2004, I did not have legal papers. I did not have the legal right to live in Rome. And, it's different now, but at that time, Americans and Canadians and Australians and other people from, very privileged countries like those, they kind of skated, they weren't hassled. They weren't, you could kind of get away with this. But nevertheless, I always had a lot of, a little bit, I wouldn't say a lot, but I did have a little bit of anxiety, especially when I would come in and out of the country and hope that they don't ask me like what I'm doing here, how long I'm staying here. I know this probably sounds incredibly tone deaf because there are people who are living in horrible, horrible situations because of their immigration status. So I don't mean to make light of that. But I did become legalized after about 4 years, but I still wasn't a citizen. And it took 2 years of marriage, but actually it ended up being 4 years because the paperwork and the bureaucracy process is so incredibly slow. You technically have to be married for 2 years to request Italian citizenship, but friends of mine had told me, request your meeting, your appointment as soon as you're married, because it'll take 2 years to get that appointment. And I did. And nevertheless, it still took 4 years after my marriage that I got my citizenship. And Katie was there. It was just a coincidence.
Fluke.
Yeah, that she was here. It was a year and some months after you had moved back to the States. I had a 3-week-old baby, and I just remember being there, and in the moment it just kind of feels like a whirlwind. You're signing papers, you're making a vow, you've got a microphone in your face, because Katie of course had to tape it.
I did.
And I had my little baby there attached, literally physically attached the entire time. But looking back, it was a huge milestone for me because I always dreamed of being Italian. Like my whole childhood, from the time I was 12 years old and I saw A Room with a View, and I started studying, learning about opera, and then studying opera and learning the language. I always dreamed not just to live over here. I wanted to be Italian. And sometimes I think back, at the moment I don't know that I really paused. And I had a new baby. I was so busy. But I'm Italian now. That's a huge deal.
That's another question is, for it to be a milestone, does it have to be hard won?
I think it helps. It helps.
Is there anything that's a milestone? I guess I got married is a milestone but that's also hard won. Is there any milestone you can achieve that's I guess I graduated from high school.
Even that takes effort.
True.
Even a baby learning to walk takes effort.
Okay. So there's nothing.
I don't know. Maybe if you're in a loveless marriage and you're just surviving day to day and you get to 50 years, I don't know, but I still think that takes effort. It's got to take effort.
That seems like it takes even more effort.
So if you're in a wonderful marriage and every day is joy.
Does that ever happen to anybody? It's every day is joy. This is another question I was having with the milestone as 600 episodes being something that I definitely could accomplish as a person who had done it before. But granted, true, I hadn't been doing it in my home for next to no money. And so, that keeps a certain level of stick-to-itedness.
And also, if I can add to that,
yes.
When you are self-motivated, when you're working on something that's your own project, it's a different kind of hard. It's a different kind of you get up every day, no one's telling you to do it. No one's, you don't have a paycheck that's depending on getting up. You just do it for yourself and for your project.
Yeah, Jan, you're probably like that a little bit with art before you started selling it, right? Can I come over to you and ask you about that? Jan?
I'm sitting here, now that you're talking about it, sitting here thinking what was the first piece of art that I sold. And it's hard to figure that out because, your friends and your family help a lot with that sort of thing.
My mother has donated every month to the podcast ever since we started.
Absolutely. But I think the one milestone as far as, I'm calling myself a professional artist now, is when I got a little prize for a piece of art and it sold that day. Then I'm like, well, now I make prize-winning art, And
That's true.
Now I'm a different kind of artist than I was before.
Do you feel different, though? Did that prize actually change how you felt inside about it?
I think it did. I think it really did. Not that I don't have, imposter syndrome most of the time about my art, but I still have that in my back pocket, and it feels good.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I do agree that some kind of recognition can be important. And it depends, I think, on how you're raised, what that recognition is. In my family, I think we were all trained to be very responsible, to have jobs, to be able to take care of ourselves as 3 daughters. You don't need a man to take care of yourself. I don't remember them saying that, but I feel like we all got that message. And so for me, I can do something for free forever, in perpetuity. I don't do anything for the money, I don't think. But if you get paid for it, somehow I'm like, okay, now it actually was, it's validated somehow. This is worth somebody paying for. And I wish I could get over that, because it's not why I'm doing it. I don't look and go, wow, now I have $20, I'm doing a good thing here. It's not really about the money, for me always. So.
Well, if it was about the money, Katie, I don't think you would have dedicated so much of your life to
granted.
radio.
I'm still saying, like, for me, that's a marker of, like, well done or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Could that be the result of growing up in a very capitalist society?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, do you think here would be different? I guess here is different. We know that.
I think it is different here. And I mean, not that people don't want to make money and people don't want to, have comfort and, the possibility of freedom to do things.
Sure.
But I do think it's more typical for people to spend years and years of their lives pursuing something that is not going to ever pay them anything. But there's another side to that.
Here or?
Here.
Okay.
But there is another side to that, which is the get a stable job mentality, which a lot of, older Italians have, and they push their children into accepting very uninspiring but very secure jobs.
Yeah. That's actually one of the things that, as a person raised in the United States, that I have the hardest time wrapping my mind around when I come here. Because what you guys don't know from just visiting now is that almost everybody you're seeing in these restaurants, in the grocery store, anywhere you go, these people have been there for their whole careers, regardless of what it is. Like, every time I go to the grocery store, I see all the same guys. They've been here since I lived here over a decade ago. They're still, like, working as checkers. And I think we have this mentality in the United States is that you start as a checker in your, like, 20s or in your teens, and you try to move up. Or maybe you return there later on in life or whatever. But you don't think, this is what I'm going to do my entire life. Generally speaking, it's just not the mentality.
I think that's one of the many positives of the States over Italy, that there's career growth, and here there's a lot of career stagnation, and that's one of the problems in Italy, and that's one of the things that that causes a lot of economic problems. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I'm just like and I guess that's what I don't understand is is the drive not there to want to do something different?
Like anywhere in the world, people are going to be different, and you're going to encounter different people who operate in a totally different way. So it's not 100% like you make it sound that everyone's been doing the same job and they never changed. People do. It's not as common. But I think that in America, we're sort of taught, at least I was always taught, do what you love, do what you love. That's not always good advice. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It really depends on the person. It depends maybe on what it is that you love, and if you truly love it. I definitely went after what I loved, and that was opera, and I'm in a totally different field right now, but I don't regret it. But in Italy, I do think that they're taught, do what's going to be stable and do what's going to make you money. And they're not taught, dream big. It's more like get a steady job, get a job at the bank, get a job at the post office, get a job where they're not going to fire you, work for the government if you can. It's much more practical. They're much more practical. Now, like I said earlier, there is a sense of like, I'm going to do my passion because I love it so much. But there's not as much of an expectation of I could make a career out of this. It's more like I have my job, and then on the side, I study this other thing, or I paint, or I write. But it's very rare for people to, or let me put it this way: when I tell people that I'm a published author, they, and that I actually made money off of my book, although, it wasn't that much, but I did get in advance. They're just shocked. They're like, in Italy, if you're a first-time writer, you have to like pay the publisher to publish your book. Like, you don't get paid for that. And, so I think that in the States, there's, whether or not it's achievable for any given person, there's more of a thought of, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for this dream. Right. And I'm going to make it be my livelihood.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like it. Have any milestones, Diane?
Well, I have a question about that whole career thing here in Italy. Because people are encouraged to go into jobs that are secure and that will give them a livelihood. I mean, does it take the pressure off in a way? And there's less anxiety? I mean, sometimes I feel like in the States, it's all about achieve. And it's, for some of us, that's just really hard. It's hard to deal with. And then if you don't achieve, you're a failure and all that.
That's interesting, because I've had that thought before. And the truth is, in Italy, if you have a job, it's an accomplishment. It's, especially if you're a young person. It's like, wow, my son graduated from college a couple of years ago, and he just got a job. It's like, wow. There is not the kind of pressure to be, first of all, super wealthy, and secondly, to like be the top, be the best, and constantly being promoted and things like this. And it's apparent when you meet people and they don't ask you what you do. And I was telling Katy, I was at a dinner with all of the parents, mostly moms, but there were some dads too, from my son's class at the end of the school year. They do a dinner every year. And I was sitting around, and I don't have a lot in common with these moms, and I don't know all of them very well. And, you know, we just have a pretty shallow relationship. And I'm sitting there bored out of my mind. Kids were all off at their own table. And I'm trying to make conversation with these people. And I was about to turn to the woman next to me, and I was like, can I ask her what she does, or is that rude? Mm-hmm. And I made the decision that was rude. It would have been rude for me to ask her what her profession was. And so I didn't ask. I asked her what she was doing on vacation in the summer instead. And that was a much more typical question you'd ask, where are you going for vacation? So yeah, I think work is less as important here. I mean, we could go into the whole conversation about work-life balance, but we're on a different topic now. But I do think it's true. It's a cliche, but it's true. There is more balance between, you know, what you're expected to do in your career versus just your life in general. Mm-hmm.
And I do think, like, maybe you guys would disagree, but any one of us that had a job that you take home every night, sometimes you think, you know, back when I used to work in a bar, that was so nice. You know, I could just be done at the end of it and go home. And I sometimes miss those days, for sure. There is a good thing about it. I just wouldn't want to be in the basement of Conad my entire life.
No.
Conad's the grocery store.
Yeah.
Okay, how about travel milestones? Are they any different than, like, say, professional achievement or social achievement?
What would be a travel milestone? Like I took the train, like I circumnavigated the globe on a train and a ship. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to think what is a
I can tell you for me.
How many continents been to?
Say that again.
I know people count how many continents they've been to, and it's a milestone when they've hit all the continents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, you travel all the time. Do you have a milestone that you're shooting for?
No, but there used to be a map, and it went away. I don't know where it went, but you could see what percentage of the world you'd been to, and I loved that. I loved making the percentage go up, and I thought, you really need to go to Russia to get that percentage up, because you go to a small country and the needle doesn't move very much. So when it was by landmass.
Even if you only go to one city in Russia, it still counts for the whole country?
Yes. You're counting countries, yes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I would say for me, a milestone was I never really traveled alone before. And I think when I moved here, I mean, I have two. When I moved here, I never thought I'd live in a foreign country, for one. I never even planned or wanted to live in a foreign country. And then I never had taken a trip or a big trip alone by myself. Like, I'd done little car rides, but I never thought, oh, I'll just go to a different country by myself and hang about. And I was terrified to do something like that. And so when I finally did and was no longer terrified to do a thing like that, yeah, that felt like a milestone.
And where was that?
I mean, the first place was flying here alone after living here. And of course, that's not that big of a milestone, because you think, well, she knows that city. It's like she's been in that airport. But for me, that felt like a big deal. Like, you know, so it was like the baby steps in, you know. And so the first place I went, because that's how I am, I went to a place I already knew and thought I could handle this, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. How about you, Diane?
That just brought up one that same thing. First time traveling by myself this year, earlier. It was only to England. I mean, come on, it was not that big of a deal.
That counts.
But, oh my God, it was such a revelation. I felt free. I felt so free. I mean, sorry, Dan, my husband's not here. He's sketching St. Peter's right now. But you know, like, not to have anybody to worry about. It's like, well, I want to go over here. No, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go there instead. Oh, I'm going to go take a nap. I loved that, and I really hadn't had that experience in years. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I totally get that too. Other people nodding? Anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, on that same regard,
Colleen?
Yeah, I'm on this trip alone as well. And I'm not the most technical person in the world, so that's always challenging for me to navigate that part. And I've also been out of country on this trip for now almost 6 weeks, which that's a big milestone, the longest I've ever been away from home traveling, and most of it without real concrete plans, which is also a challenge for me because I like to have things organized, planned, picked out, And it's been real liberating to just go in the moment, live in the moment, and take the good and take the bad and just be happy with it all and enjoy the little things that come along. So it's been a really great trip.
Why did you decide to do it that way?
Well, mostly because my husband said he didn't want to come.
Okay. But I mean, the lack of planning, given your planning behavior.
Oh, partly I was traveling with some other people, met up with them, and it was just how we all decided to do it. So we had about 3 locations planned, but out of 6 weeks, that was a lot of getting up in the morning or the night before. Where do we want to go?
Yeah. Well, now, and this is your final movement in the 6 weeks. How do you feel about going home after being gone for so long?
I think I'm ready. I think it's been a good amount of time, but I'm also surprised that I'm not exhausted, and I'm going home with lots of great stories and having met lots of fun people and excited to be here, and a wonderful place to end the trip with this beautiful hotel and staying in the same room for 6 nights.
That's true. If you've been on the move that often, my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Where are we, Tiffany?
Yeah, so we are at the hotel that Colleen referred to, is where we're staying right now, which is the Hotel Donna Camilla Savelli. You've heard us talk about it if you listen to the show, because we have been talking about this trip, and this is where we always stay, and it is a beautiful hotel. It is special. There's something about it that is just special. It's like a little oasis in the middle of the city, because we're sitting here in this lush courtyard, and you don't feel like you're in the middle of a really big, bustling, loud city, because it's just sort of secluded and away from it all. And the fact that it's inside of a monastery by Borromini doesn't hurt.
Does anybody want to take a guess at like what the value of a milestone is? Like why we as human beings are sort of drawn to mark occasions? Anyone have a theory?
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say...
Anyone else? Nope.
Sorry. Never mind.
I'm just kidding. No, please.
I would guess that it encourages us to keep going to the next milestone. If you think about when you go for a run, and I was a runner for like 25 minutes, but when I did run, I used to look at something in the distance. You're a runner, right? You know this technique. You look at something in the distance. I just got to get to that thing. But right before you get to it, you say, no, I'm going to get to that thing over there. And it really, really helps, especially if you're not naturally a runner type. And I think that when you're approaching a milestone or arriving at it, it gives you that impetus to keep going. If I got this far, I can go to the next one.
Colleen?
That makes me think of a milestone I've always set for myself, that I want to be 80 years old and still hiking. And just recently I've thought, well, that's too close. That's too near in the future. I think I better say 90 and still hiking.
That's nice. You're pushing it out. Wow, that's incredible. Okay. Should I share the milestone? Sure. Okay. Well, I have a milestone that we've announced on bonus episodes, but it's not out for you guys. Tiffany and I always, every year, set New Year's resolutions, and we set them publicly on the show. And we always have ones that are like incredibly ambitious or somewhat ambitious. And I always do one where I can accomplish it in a day, because I think that's how New Year's resolutions should be done. You decide I'm going to eat a pomegranate, you eat it, it's done. Great. Now I know what that's like. So I always try to set some kind of resolution that's like that. And I have not done my resolution that is that this year. I'm supposed to go shoot archery somewhere. So if anybody hears about that in Rome, I have not gotten to that yet. But for the last 3 years, I've been saying on the show publicly that I want to finish the book I'm writing. It's a novel. And finally, even before the year is out, I finished it in July. I know. And I'm not just bragging. And I was very lucky in the way that it all went down. I started looking for an agent on July 7th when I finished it. Managed to find an agent by July 15th, and she had sold it by the end of September.
I know. It's incredible.
So it's like the most ridiculous turnaround ever.
I think it's literally a record. For a first-time author, I think it might be a record.
I think it felt like a record. It felt like I thought we were going to be in a slog for like a year trying to sell it or something like that. Like, I was just thrilled to find somebody who was super into it.
Yeah, just to give you like a different timeline, which I think is more typical, and I even at the time felt like it was fast. I finished my book in the summer, many years ago, and I immediately started looking for an agent. I found one in January, which I felt like that was
great. We were like, wow, wait.
I was very excited. Yeah. And he called me and told me that it had sold in March of the next year. It took 1 year and 2 months. Half of the year was revisions. Her book didn't need any revisions.
It's true.
Can you tell us about it?
I can tell you about it.
Okay.
But with any novel, it's difficult to describe, because people are always like, what's your book about? And well, you're like, well, it's about a lot of different things. But I wrote a book that would come before the classic, The Secret Garden. But I also wrote it in a way that if you had never heard of The Secret Garden, never cared about The Secret Garden, had no desire to ever read The Secret Garden, that it wouldn't matter, it would stand alone as its own story. But if you did know The Secret Garden, either from the book or the movie, that my story would enhance your understanding of what that story was about. And perhaps it's an easy sell, because it's easy to describe compared to, like, I wrote a book about 2 step-parents who were fighting over, it doesn't have a convoluted plot that doesn't have a hook in some way. But that does mean it's a historical novel. It's set in the late 1800s, and it follows, my main character is Mary Lennox's mother, who is written off in the original story as a typical neglectful Victorian mother who never hangs out with her child, and then she dies from a cholera outbreak, and we don't know anything about her, and her daughter just goes sent off to England to live out the rest of her life, and we've just killed that character off. And I thought, what a weird way to start a story. I wonder what that woman would really be like if she was not a typical neglectful Victorian mother.
Well, it's very exciting, Katie. No, I'm just happy for you and excited. And I don't think you should write it off and say it's an easy sell, because you clearly did an exceptional execution. Otherwise, it would not have sold so fast or at all.
Thank you. I do think it's really good, so I hope you guys all get it.
Having just read your short little story about Keats, I would say that you are a very gifted writer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks to those of you who read that story, too. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, by the way, everyone, for coming on this trip. You guys are an amazing group, and you're so chatty and friendly with each other. It's amazing. I love it. Thank you for being here, all of you. And until next time, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katie Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Join us again. Bye. Don't miss your chance to explore the Rome most tourists never get to see by coming to Rome with us. We'll take you through the history, art, and stories of Rome in a way that you will never forget. Visit thebittersweetlife.net for more information, or email us at bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com.